Hello and welcome to Seriously Good TV, the show by teens for teens. I'm Elliot and this is my co-host Taz.
Thank you, Elliot. It's lovely to be here today. So due to a difficulty of gathering people, the Stansted shoot has been delayed. But don't worry, because we've got an excellent one today. Anyway, you guys better step in and gear up, as today's episode is jam-packed with exciting content. Elliot and I are going to be talking about electric cars, as well as interviewing an owner of one, who will be featured later in the show.
As well as this, we're going to be here with Willem for the news side of things, but for now, let's get started with our segment with the electric cars. So, start off with, what are electric cars? They are a technological marvel in the world of vehicles. When you hear the word electric car, you probably think of Tesla, which is one of the most famous electric cars out there in the world, and they run off electricity just like a phone or a laptop instead of the petrol you usually use to load like a car at a petrol station. It's really amazing what electricity can do. We spoke with Willem and an owner of an electric car to find out all there is to know about electric cars. So, roll the VT.
Hi everyone, it's Abby and Elliot, and we're here with Tom. He's our special guest today, and we're borrowing his electric car, and we're going to be learning a little bit about the electric cars and why you should be using them. We discuss some of, the urban legends about them. So should we get straight on with it?
So a big question people have, or seemingly have, about electric cars is about the price. I know quite a lot of people have said they're expensive to not only buy but to maintain and to upkeep. So, the battery life and stuff like that.
Yeah, okay, right, let's break that down. So, firstly, purchase price is quite high. Prices will come down. They are particularly high at the moment because it's a new technology, or relatively new technology. Batteries have existed for quite some time, but the current generation of batteries are basically new. So, there are some higher costs involved. The manufacturers have spent billions researching and developing and retooling and retraining all their staff. So there's a lot of money being spent. So it's quite an expensive business. So prices are high, but I expect them to come down once uptake increases of electric vehicle ownership. Prices will probably start to come down.
When do you think the price of electric cars, when do you think electric cars will become the next new thing?
Well, I think we are basically there, although they are quite pricey at the moment, and that does price people out of electric vehicle ownership. I think there are enough people who can afford electric cars. The ownership is increasing, and the second-hand market will get really, really fruity in the next few years as the cars become older. So when there are cars that are 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, even 8 or 10 years old, the prices will come down, and there'll be a lot of second-hand electric cars on the market.
Yeah, aren't lots of car companies, aren't they all starting to turn into electric cars?
Yeah, I mean VW, they had the big scandal with the emissions cheating stuff, and they're one of the big companies that have pledged basically to stop developing petrol and diesel cars completely, and only sell electric. And they've got a range of electric cars coming out. They've got the model called the Up. There's going to be an E-Up. There's an E-Golf. There's pretty much an E-everything that they make coming out. There's even the electric transporter van coming out. And this is just VW. Other brands are available.
So with the electric cars being the newer version that's going to take us into the future, what do you think's going to be even more into the future with the cars in general? Do you think we'll get the driverless
Well,
cars?
there's a few things. Oh, driverless cars. So I think it's hard to tell. It's one of two things, and I need to do more research on this. It's either we're very close, or despite seeming like we're very close, we're actually still a long way away. The real world is a very complex place for a computer to understand. Humans have the ability to make judgments that computers, even powerful supercomputers, struggle to kind of comprehend or to work out. So in the real world, when it comes to avoiding hazards, although there is such thing as human error, I think humans are still the better drivers. Whether that changes quite quickly or not, I don't know, because computing power improves every year. But it is something really interesting to watch. I mean, even this car, it's not self-driving, but it has features that actually, if you're going down a motorway, if you're not holding the steering wheel, it will warn you to hold the steering wheel, and then start screaming at you if you don't grab the steering wheel. But it will just gently nudge you so that you stay in the centre of your lane. And things like smart cruise control, so you stay at a minimum safe distance away from the cars in front. There's loads of features like that, which are not quite self-driving, but it does take some of the work out for the driver.
Right. Think we're done here. Thank you very much.
No worries, thank you.
Yeah. So we've just finished driving in this electric car, and now I hope that you've learned something, maybe about the environment, about electric cars themselves, maybe busted some urban myths that are definitely not true about this car. And yeah.
Back to the studio.
So now knowing a lot more about electric cars, we have with us today the legend that is the Tom Willem. Hello, Tom.
Hello, thank you very much for having me.
So,
Quiet in the studio today, there's no applause. Hooray! Thank you very much to that man at the back
there.
there.
You go. Love that. So, got some myths for you here.
Fire away.
And I've heard that you're quite the electric car expert. So, let's get into them, shall we? So, do you want to start off?
Sure. So, true or false? Electric cars are no cleaner to the environment than fossil fuel cars.
False. There's a massive study that the petrol heads like to share about cars in Germany, but that's been widely debunked as having so many things wrong with it, and there's a very specific set of circumstances, as well as all these wild assumptions that the people making that study made. So it's basically completely false. The national grid could be entirely made up of fossil fuels, a mixture of coal and gas, whatever. Electric cars will still end up being cleaner over time than running an individual fossil fuel car. So false.
Fair enough.
Next.
The batteries only last a few years and need to be replaced at great expense.
Okay, there used to be a lot of apprehension about these batteries, but things have moved on. Most manufacturers are now offering a longer warranty on the batteries than the whole of the rest of the vehicle. So they have faith in their batteries. The batteries in cars, hybrids from 10, 15 years ago, they're still going. The batteries are lasting a lot longer than even the manufacturers realised. So the batteries will last, and they are designed to last, the full life of the vehicle. And in many cases, the batteries will go on to have a second life being used in other applications after the rest of the car has been scrapped. So the whole issue about battery life is it's just not true. You're not going to need to replace it. You're no more likely to have to replace a battery than you are to replace an entire engine in a traditional car. So the cost of doing that is almost irrelevant because you're never going to need to do it. However, if you do find yourself needing to replace the batteries, although a few £1,000s for a battery sounds like a lot, that's actually only a couple of years of fuel savings for the average driver. So you'll soon get that money back as long as that new battery lasts another couple of years at least, which it probably would do. If the first one lasted 10 years, why wouldn't the second one? So no problem.
So is that now myth?
It's another myth.
Boom.
All right, okay. They have poor range and are no good for long distance driving.
Mine has a range of 279 miles. I did a 435-mile trip to Scotland, and I rapid charged at a service station when I stopped for a break, which I would have had anyway. So the journey took me exactly the same length of time within a few minutes as it would have done in my diesel car, the one I used to have. Most people will only drive for 3 or 4 hours before they stop for a break. It's sensible and safe to do so. And when you do stop, plug in, recharge, carry on. So long journeys are not a problem. There's plenty of people online documenting their travels across Europe and across America doing exactly that. So it's not a problem.
Yeah, fair enough.
Cool.
One of my favourites is the national grid can't cope or if we all charge our electric cars.
Okay, a couple of things. People say that electric cars are all going to be charged at the same time. They're not. We don't all put the kettle on at the same time. We don't all turn up at the petrol station at the same time. Most people are only going to need one charge a week, sometimes two. So it's not going to happen all at the same time. And if you look at the amount of electricity electric cars use over a given distance and calculate the actual distances that people in the UK drive their cars and work out how much more electricity that's going to use, the increased amount of electricity added onto what we're already using still comes to less electricity than we were using as a country in 2005, and we coped all right back then. So why couldn't we cope if all the electric... But we're decades away from 100% uptake of electric vehicles anyway, so we've got decades to solve that problem, but it's not a problem that needs to be solved because we have plenty of power. It's another myth.
Fair enough.
Okay. Another one then. There's nowhere to charge them. I live in a flat and I can't charge it at home.
I hear that one a lot, and there is some truth to that one. About 50%, 60% of UK properties have some form of private or off-street parking. Now, not all of those parking spaces are going to be suitable for home charging, but a good proportion of them are. So a massive chunk of electric car owners will just be charging up on their driveway at home anyway. Now, that's some of the population. Now, the rest, without a private parking space, they will need to use public chargers. Now, this is the very start of the electric revolution. When the first petrol cars came rolling out the factory, we didn't suddenly the next day have 7,000 petrol stations all up and down the country. This is the very start. It's been going a few years. The growth is now exponential, much like the spreading of a virus, which I hear is quite popular in the news at the moment. So as this growth kind of comes through, we'll start to see more chargers being installed. Now, there's already more places in the UK to charge an electric car than there are petrol stations.
Really?
And you can just go anywhere that's got a socket. You know, there's plenty of sockets in this studio. You could, if you had to, plug a car into one of those when you get to your destination. You know, if you're going away somewhere to see some friends, yeah, just run a cable from a 13 amp socket. You could charge from that if you have to. So in theory, there's millions of charging points. But reality is there's 30,000 charging point connectors in the UK that are serving 300,000 or less electric cars, because that's how many there are on the roads at the moment. But then half of them are charging at home. So there's only 150,000 cars that are using 30,000 plugs. So there are plenty of charges for the current number of electric cars. And as long as the infrastructure keeps pace with ownership, not a problem.
Oh, fair enough. Let's go for one more then. Plug-in cars are useless. You need a self-charging car.
Okay, self-charging cars don't exist. The way that you charge a self-driving car is to put petrol in it and then drive it, and then you will recover some of the energy. Now, in theory, that's going to be more efficient than just a straight petrol engine, but reality is, because they've got smaller engines to make room for motors and batteries and whatever else, there have been some studies done that actually show that more emissions come out of hybrid cars than normal petrol cars because of the compromise having to be made. You're much better off just going full electric.
Wow,
Fair point.
fair enough. So, a lot of myths have just been busted with our good old friend here, Tom. Thank you for being on the show again.
Thank you very much for having me.
It was very fun. Anyway, now let's go over to Yolanda and see how she's doing with her new driving and her instructor, Ross.
Hi guys, I'm Yolanda and I'm here with my future driving instructor Ross. So Ross, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Hi, nice to meet you. I've been a driving instructor about 6 or 7 years, and I run a driving school where there's about 11 of us currently instructing throughout the whole of Essex.
What made you want to become a driving instructor in the first place?
Quite honestly, I've been driving my entire career, doing various jobs, and I wanted to put some roots down, quite frankly, and I thought giving something back, something that I do naturally and something that I enjoy would be a good thing.
So what exactly does it involve wanting to become a driving instructor?
Well, first of all, most people think becoming a driving instructor is about driving, but actually most of what we do is about teaching. So fundamentally we can drive, but can we explain how to drive to everybody who wants to learn? So we have to do various tests. The course takes probably around about 12 months in general. We have to do an extended theory test, so a little bit longer than what you'll have to do. We have to do an advanced driving test to prove that we can drive in all conditions, and then we have to do an instructional test as well to prove that we can actually instruct how to drive.
Yeah.
And that takes around about a year to do so.
With my first driving lesson, what should I be expecting?
First of all, it's important to go to the lesson enthusiastic and wanting to do it. I think if you have a will to learn, then you're going to be much more absorbent to it. And quite frankly, don't expect that suddenly I'm going to take you on a motorway in the snow. That doesn't happen. So I'll first of all drive you to a nice quiet area.
Yeah.
And I'll get you very familiar with the car. So if you're familiar with the car and set up really well, then of course we can then start you moving, etc., etc. So it's one of those that we build it up from the foundations up. As I say, without solid foundations in a car, you're never really going to understand what you're doing. And more importantly, you might actually be a bit frightened of doing it. So I get some really good foundations there, and then we'll go at your pace, quite frankly.
So what can you do personally to combat nerves in the car?
One of the things I teach more than anything would be breathing. I think if you learn how to breathe and you learn how to control your own emotions, then actually you're going to be much more absorbent to actually learning to drive. So breathing, chewing, lots of water, ask lots of questions. You know, I'm not expecting that you know anything, but you might know more than I think you know.
Yeah.
So the more involved you can get in the lessons, the more you will learn, but also the more the more enthusiastic you are, the better you'll be.
What did you do prior to being a driving instructor then?
I was in the fashion industry for about 15 years, so I basically ran various fashion brands travelling throughout the UK and Europe, lots of driving. And it's something I thoroughly enjoyed, meeting lots of celebrities, getting dressed up in nice clothes, etc. Did that until I didn't want to do it anymore. I think most instructors are in my position where they start with a different career, and as they get a bit older, a bit more mature, they want to give a little bit back, and that's exactly basically why I became an instructor.
Yeah. So in regards to passing the actual driving test, if I wasn't to pass first time, how would you then help a student to progress?
I think one of the most important things to realise is it's not about passing first time, and it's not about passing because your parents want you to, or passing because your instructor wants you to. When you're ready, you will pass. I think when you're capable of driving, you will pass. I think the driving test itself is more about nerves on the day rather than ability to drive. But if you don't pass, it's one of those things. Not everybody passes first time. We'll practice things that you probably got wrong on your test. We'll rebuild that confidence that you might have lost from the test, and we'll do it again. There's no timeline on passing. There's no, as I say, right to pass. But when you're ready, you'll know it, and also so will I.
I've heard about plus pass.
Pass plus.
Pass. Okay, I've heard about pass plus.
Yep.
I got a bit confused then. What exactly does that involve?
Pass Plus is an extra test that you can take when you've actually qualified, which actually takes you a little bit further into the depths of driving, so that it teaches you to drive motorways, for example. It teaches you to drive slightly busier areas and country roads. I have to say, it's something that I am registered to teach, but I don't actually encourage doing the course, because most of the course that is part of Pass Plus I actually do within my lessons anyway. I feel you should be a more rounded driver and much better than the test. The test itself is just proving to the examiner you know how to drive. I want you to be confident to be able to drive in all conditions. So even though it's an extra thing you can take when you've passed, I personally don't recommend it. It used to be very good for your insurance, but nowadays with black boxes and things like that, you don't really need the extra certificate to prove you're a better driver.
How comes you chose to start off your own driving company?
A few years ago, I actually started to instruct other potential instructors on how to do the job. So what happened was, when they'd qualified, they had nowhere to go. It's one of these jobs that when you qualify, you're sort of left to fend for yourself. So I wanted to stay to become very much their mentors and actually build a team around me. And it just so happened I started Innovate Driving School as a bit of a place for them to go when they qualified. And as I say, I've now grown the school to 11 instructors throughout Essex, and I've taught 7 of them how to actually do the job.
Thank you very much, and I can't wait to start driving lessons with you.
Me neither. I think it'll be great fun. And as I say, as long as you go with a smile on your face, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
So, Yolanda, okay, I haven't discussed with you your driving lessons yet, or what's been going on. So,
Well, I haven't actually had my first driving
no, I know you haven't, but what have you done? Because you've been, theory, is it?
Oh, yeah. So, first of all, I got to meet my instructor, but prior to that, I decided to do my theory test first.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So, with road signs, is there anything, specific about them?
Okay, so all of the signs have different colour schemes according to what it might mean. So, the stop sign, do you know what it is?
Octagon?
You're right.
Oh, okay.
It's the only sign that's an octagon, and it's red. And I'm pretty sure it has a whiteboard that says stop in the middle. Self-explanatory. If it was snowing, for instance, and the snow was covering the sign, you could still tell it was a stop sign.
Yeah.
Because of the shape.
Yeah.
So warning signs, they tend to be triangles.
Right.
So you might get a warning sign. The give way sign is actually an upside down triangle.
Why?
So it stands out.
Oh, okay, so
even
it's
if
the
you
same-
can't
it's the
read
same
sign,
method.
You can tell by the shape.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So different shapes have different meanings.
Yeah. Well, anyway, thank you for letting me interview you today. And luckily, through the magic of editing, we can now see what you're going to do in your driving lessons and how regretful they may be.
Right guys, welcome. It's my first driving lesson with Innovate. I'm really nervous, but I'm excited because I've been waiting to do this for over a year now, and I guess here he comes.
Hello and welcome. My name is William Crease and this is the news. Meghan Markle makes one of her last appearances as a senior royal at Essex School on International Women's Day. Head boy delivers speech on the importance of the day after hugging Markle and saying, "She's really beautiful in it." Health Minister tests positive for coronavirus. Panic buying hand sanitizers using sorry, I can't read. Being responsible to pay £2 per customer in high-level shops and pharmacies, whilst supermarkets themselves are being emptied of toilet rolls. Katy Perry announces pregnancy with Orlando Bloom in her new music video. A woman has undergone a brain surgery whilst playing the violin to ensure surgeons do not damage the part. Oh, sorry, I can't read. Reading like a robot. Whilst playing the violin to ensure surgeons do not damage the brain, which controls the violin movement of our hands. A troop of baboons have escaped from the medical research facility in Sydney. Footage on social media shows 3 baboons running past vehicles and shocked onlookers. The Royal Prince media and the animals have escaped early reactions to Disney's remake. Right. Early reactions to Disney's remake of the 1990s Mulan have been everything positive, saying it's visually stunning, emotional, and more mature than most Disney films. We would have more to talk about in terms of time, but because of time, the coronavirus has cancelled them. So instead, we're just going to bring our wonderful writer Josh out to talk about the latest films.
Hello, I'm Josh, the writer.
You are indeed.
Yes.
Well done, you know your name.
Yes, thank you. So, yeah, like William was saying, a lot of films have been postponed and cancelled due to the coronavirus. In the last few hours before, like, you guys came here, both A Quiet Place Part 2 and Fast and Furious 9 have been pushed back. Both, or at least one of those films I was ridiculously excited for. So now it looks like we're going to wait even longer for A Quiet Place 2, which, I don't know about you guys, I'm disappointed.
I'm very disappointed too. I really was looking forward to that too. I'm going to go watch it with my aunt.
I mean, I wasn't going to go watch it, but I kind of feel like I'm obligated to now.
Yeah. What about anything else has been cancelled?
I don't think, as far as I know, I don't think anything else has been cancelled. I did a brief check beforehand, but nothing else has been.
Are there any new releases?
Well, there's Radioactive, the Mary Shelley film starring I think it's Rosamund Pike. That film is releasing on the 20th. However, aside from that, there's no other major releases, which is very rare in terms of a weekend of releases. Usually there'll be something big for everyone to go and see. But this weekend's release, A Quiet Place, or next weekend, A Quiet Place has been just cancelled. There's nothing. I don't think Paramount have even announced a new release date for it.
That makes sense. What's in cinemas currently?
Currently, you've got some very good offerings with Onward.
Yes,
that
I'm
is
going to see that.
that is such a great film, especially if you have brothers or if you've grown up without a dad. It's a film that will connect with you. Certainly made me tear up towards a couple of points.
Yeah.
The Invisible Man for horror fans. That is very good. I want
to go see that. It's just literally, isn't it? Just an invisible person.
It follows Elizabeth Moss, who plays Cecilia. She is in an abusive relationship, and the film opens with her just leaving. It's like it's like 5 minutes of just almost silence as she creeps out of the house, and it's really tense. It's such a great opening scene. And then from then, it's just her paranoid, thinking that her abusive boyfriend, who we find out has killed himself, is no longer, she thinks he's tormenting her. And that's where the Invisible Man, that's where it all comes from. That's where the whole horror comes from, and it's really tense. It does have a few moments where if you sit back and think about it, they do start to fall apart. and there are later reveals which add to that feeling of like, okay, you know, that doesn't make sense. But from director Lee Wan-el, it is a very, very solid offering.
Nice.
I think in terms of other releases, Military Wives seems to be popular with other people. I personally did not like it.
Haven't seen it. Or heard of it, actually.
I've watched that, you know, when you're in the cinema and then you watch
Trailers.
Like, the trailers beforehand. Yeah, I saw it then, and it was, yeah, it's like, it's for a particular audience of like...
Yeah, it's for people who like the sort of sappier dramas.
Yeah.
I personally thought it was way too, like, I think my main problem with it was the main character. One of the main characters felt like such a busybody, like she was trying to get involved so much, trying to get other people to get involved so much. She's the kind of person I would not want to be around. And I think that hindered my enjoyment of the film.
Yeah.
But aside, I think it's a film you'd have to, if you're sold by the trailers, you'll like it. If the trailers make you groan, you don't see it.
I mean, if any trailer makes you go and don't
Well,
see it.
you say that, but there was a film in 2018, Blockers, a John Cena comedy. I thought it looked absolutely horrendous, but it was actually pretty decent. I actually quite enjoyed it. And
Fair enough then.
on sort of relevant grounds, A Quiet Place, the first film, I went into it having loads of problems, like, okay, this won't work, I guarantee I'm not going to like this film. And I came out and I enjoyed it. And the more I watch it, the more I like it, the more I've grown an appreciation for John Krasinski, both as an actor and a director. So it's, sometimes, just because a trailer isn't very good doesn't mean the film is going to be bad.
Yeah.
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
So if you was to suggest a film for someone to go watch this weekend?
This weekend, I'd say, for general like families, Onward is definitely a film.
Yeah.
I think Onward is the one that you should really be going to see. For people looking for a bit more of the adult, edgier stuff, I would definitely lean more towards The Invisible Man, which is a great horror film. There's Blumhouse, who have also got The Hunt, which has just come out, and Fantasy Island.
Oh, yeah, no, I had that one.
Yeah, I'm seeing that one tonight, so
Kind of jealous, actually. I really want to see that.
I've heard it's not very good, so I'm going in with hopes, but hey ho, let's.
Positive mental attitude with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, lovely. I just realised too, I remembered that isn't Mulan, you know, the remake of Mulan.
There's a lot of that. The film's release is up in the air right now because Disney's idea was having a day and day with China, which is very rare. It was like day and day, like worldwide pretty much. Everyone gets it at the same time. But due to the coronavirus, Chinese cinemas are closed, which had a huge impact on the box office. Like films aren't making as much money. But because Mulan, obviously, it can't release in China, it can't release in Italy. I think Japan is starting to close cinemas. I'm not too sure on that one. But if it can't release in Japan, that's a few major markets that are just gone. The film isn't going to make any money. And given that films make like a small percentage of their, like, they may have been made for like 100 million, but they only would have brought back if they wouldn't bring back as much profit as you'd think from $1 billion. So for a film not to get those major releases, it's really bad because that's a lot more money just going down the drain.
Yeah.
And it's just, that's why a lot of films have been delayed. So Mulan, it's up in the air, they haven't delayed it yet, and it is getting preview screenings, it is getting press releases, or press screenings. So I'm confident that it's going to release on time, but I've got some worries.
Yeah, it's just, of course, coronavirus. Of course, it's coronavirus. Speaking of which, William, do you want to fill us in on what's going on there?
Exactly. Speaking of the coronavirus, aka COVID-19, a meeting was held today by Boris Johnson, who decided that we're too stubborn to do anything aside from ban all school trips abroad, unlike Ireland, who have closed all their schools.
Let's maybe have a quick chat about it. Sure, come on over, William. Come sit on the chair with us. We're going to have a quick little chat about the coronavirus, because there's a lot going on right now about it, you know.
There is indeed.
To fill in the story, if you haven't heard, there was the whole thing that started in China, and it's only started from this year. It's truly started to spread around, and it's done awful things to all these countries, such as Italy is on complete lockdown, basically only supposed to go out for either you're working or a family emergency. Instead, you're going to be stuck inside. With us right now, we have that kind of situation, well, just before it really, where we could internally shut down, but we're not really high enough yet. So we're just like up in the air right now. But
You know, you say that we could shut down, but we're not high enough. Yeah, Ireland has, I think it was like 18 last time I checked, and we've got 500 and something.
yes, I think that's because of the fact that as a group, schools is one of the places that got shut down.
Yeah.
Schools is a massive gathering. It's like in Scotland, they shut gatherings of like, what was it, like
500.
500. I'd say schools are filled with 500 people.
Well, it depends on the school type. I mean, if we went to our school, it would definitely be shut down because there's, what, 1,600?
I think a lot of schools have more than 500
Yeah, I'd say
children.
most schools
Yeah.
are.
Most
Definitely.
schools,
Tiny
I think,
village schools, I think, are the
tiny
more.
village schools would be safe, but most schools in any sort of town, any sort of city, they're goodbye. There's no point.
Yeah.
Realistically, I think they should have just shut down all schools because otherwise then you get people doing some education that these people that aren't allowed to go to school should be doing. But
But why isn't Boris, our Prime Minister, decided to not shut down schools? Well, I'm trying to think of the reason. Because if we were to play devil's advocate, he could be like, maybe it's because it's not aimed for us, or it's not like as serious as it is. Maybe he's like being really tough about it. Maybe he's like, just like, no, we can get through this. We're not going to be badly damaged by it. But
the
are we?
question is he a genius or is he an idiot?
I think he's a genius playing an idiot.
Okay.
Because, I mean, have you seen some of the older videos of him? Like
I have
the
not.
just
I don't
utter
do any
gibberish
research.
he talks.
Mm.
I've
Oh,
seen
no,
like
oh, no, I have seen that,
I've
yeah.
seen just from like clips from Russell Howard's Good News, just of all the
Yeah.
gibberish that he talks, and you'd think like, come on, he's a madman. How is he in charge?
Yeah.
But that madman is somehow in charge. So if I think it's all a public persona. I think it's all like somebody's playing up.
Yeah, I think it's the same with Trump. He's a genius idiot. I mean, have you seen like the video
I
that he
disagree
made?
with you there.
I think the idiot. I mean, have you seen the video that he put out? The one where he's
No.
talking about the coronavirus. He basically says, "I'm going to shut down all shipping, everything, even trade, every single person not coming to Europe." And their government goes, "No. We still want to trade with you. We still want to trade with you because he's an idiot." It's true.
See, I think he's a businessman.
Yeah.
He
I
has
disagree with a lot of his.
He
like,
has and always will be a businessman. He's got a start in business. He is a businessman. So everything he does is with either a business head or whatever his mentality was.
Yeah.
So, like I don't know enough about Trump. Never met the guy. I don't know him personally. Don't know if you guys do.
I
But-
cannot say I do.
But he is like from what it seems, he's old as well. I think he's in his 70s now.
Is he?
I mean, yeah.
Gee, oh,
Doesn't look it, but he's
No.
he's like he's getting on in years, and he probably grew up in a more racist time, to say the
Yeah,
least.
yeah.
So that's probably where a lot of like his views on immigration, things like that, come in, just from when he grew up and how a lot of older people seem to find it harder to adapt. And then any trade, anything like that, is coming purely from a business perspective,
Right.
which.
Sorry, I was just going to interrupt you to jump back to the whole
Coronavirus.
thing.
Yeah, we're going to a different topic.
Yeah, because Trump's an
Yeah.
entirely different topic. We could go on that another time. But, Corona, what are we thinking about our futures? Do you think that anything's going to happen to us personally?
I think if schools do shut down eventually, then our GCSEs may have to be pushed back. If not, it will go into like some sort of summer holidays, or we might end up getting extra percentage. But then it might end up being useless because everyone's getting the extra percentage, and Great Boundary shift. So
I don't think it's going to be pushed back. I think that it's just they're either going to give us a longer break now, like maybe by Easter term they give us an extra week, and we have one less week of summer, but then we still do it at the same time. Basically, it's like having breaks now, but then when it comes to summer, hopefully they're going to hope that it's going to kill it, or like make it go lower down, because that's what people are saying too. It says it's more of a winter thing than it is a summer thing.
You know, I was looking into this actually, but there's no like proof because it still exists in hotter countries. There is currently no proof that it's dying from like the heat. At least that's what I've like seen.
Again, this is all we've just seen or we've just like only known because it's all articles. It's all news paper.
Yeah, that's everyone's always talking
I
about
don't think anyone here on this sofa, I hope no one here on this sofa, I beg no one here on this sofa has any personal experience with the coronavirus.
No.
No.
Sorry.
Maybe we'll change our mind on that one. William, what do you think about the coronavirus? Do you think it's a real big deal, or do you think like it's just another flu?
Well, it's affected a lot of people. The government recommends probably 5,000 to 10,000 cases. Well, that's what some of the newspapers are saying. I don't know whether it's true or not. But I reckon it can be contained eventually. But for the moment, just try to wash your hands. Try to stay away. Put your hands in your pockets if you feel like people are coughing around you. Move away. Try to not take too much public transport.
Sat at the sofa.
Yeah. No, those are legitimate things that you should probably do. Because
there's over like 130,000 cases, I believe, now, in total.
10 people have passed away from it in the UK alone.
I think there's more than that now.
No, I think it might
From
be.
what
There's
I've
a big
heard,
spike earlier.
from what I've heard, there's more people have died from the flu since the coronavirus has started than the coronavirus has killed people.
I'm assuming it's because they're both respiratory, like diseases.
Yeah, it affects your breathing. You can't breathe, you're dead. That's simple as.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
Welcome to biology, guys.
Right, I think that's wrapped up our little corona talk. Hopefully by next time it won't get any worse. Hopefully we'll be all quarantined. Hopefully we'll be allowed here and not be on complete lockdown and be stuck in our houses. But if you are, watch our stuff because it's, we'll still be hopefully posting. You can sit at home, relax and just watch us.
Anyway, but before you all go, let's do the quick fact of the day. So, have you heard of lesbian lizards? Probably not. I didn't until recently. But basically, the New Mexican whiptail lizard asexually reproduces. So it's a species of all female, and they've been dubbed lesbian lizards. But yeah, so I hope you all liked this episode, and please comment, subscribe, join us on the next one. But I believe, what's the next one? Jack the Ripper?
Hopefully, yes, I think it is.
Yeah. Okay, so the next one is Jack the Ripper.
Woo!
So please make sure to watch. Okay, bye.
Yeah, thank you
Bye.
guys. Bye.